This week on the TT show, Apple's new M3 chips are coming to MacBooks and iMacs. After a decade of development, Star Citizen looks incredible. We want the new PC GameCube. Nvidia is going to make CPUs. A Twitch streamer is selling beer made from her body parts. NASA doubts Mars sample return mission schedule. Google co-founder 400-foot ship approved for flight. Musk wants your entire financial life on X, and much, much more. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the TT show. My name is Jak Connor. I'm a hardware editor over at Tweaktown, and I'm joined by my co-host
Kosta Andriadis, gaming hardware editor at Tweaktown.
And before we jump into our regularly scheduled programming of news stories, I would just like to ask everyone that is listening to this right now to please like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube. Follow us on the Spotify, the Apple Podcasts, and all of that. There is a decent amount of people that are listening to the show, and we've looked at the analytics, and most of them aren't subscribed. So before we do our news stories, I would just like to ask you to do that. Now that that's over, let's jump into Apple.
Yeah. Apple's, was it Scary Fest? Scary Fast?
Scary Fast. October, I'm guessing Halloween themed.
My news story, I'm going to have to update that. Yeah. So like it happened, so it's Halloween. Not that it was anything scary about it. Unless, faster performance frightens you.
I mean, gets me going.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we know? The new M3 chips are coming to MacBook Pro laptops. From what I didn't report on this story, but I did do a little bit of reading as I'm very interested in what Apple makes. From what I understand, it's not that big of a jump. And I did watch the keynote, and it seemed that they were comparing in Apple fashion the M3 directly to the M1 on purpose, not to the M2. Because I'm thinking, and I don't trust Apple's charts. It's literally just a line or two lines, and then they're like, look at the difference between these two lines. This is 2.5 times faster or whatever it is. I'm not sure of the percentage increase in performance compared to the M2 versus the M3, but I know that from the M1, and correct me if I'm wrong here, from the M1 to the M3, we're looking at about 25%. Yeah,
it might be that. Like, it's always like strange when they like compare things that aren't like specifically gen on gen. Like sometimes we see it in CPU spaces and GPU spaces with companies, and their reasoning might be that because people upgrade every 2 years, or when it comes to PCs, as opposed to every year, or every skip a generation. But the M3 chip, I mean, it still sounds impressive. I mean, it's 3 nanometer, it's cutting edge tech. And the iMacs are pretty, thin and slick, and you got the Apple style, so it's not exactly a big chunky sort of iMac. How they're cooling it and stuff like that is obviously going to be a concern. But I think like the big letdown from the new M3 iMacs is some of the specs seem a little bit outdated. Like entry level, like the baseline model. Of the 24-inch, you get 8 gigabytes of unified memory. Oh. So if you were getting like a desktop PC now, would you like settle for like that unified memory which covers VRAM and system RAM?
No, I would not. M3 I need at least 16 gig.
Yeah. So they offer up to 24 gig, which should be the standard. So like the price is $16.99 US for the 24-inch M3 iMac, which gets you their M3 chip with the beefier GPU component. But you only get 8 gigs of unified memory, and to bump that up to 24 gig, you got to spend an extra $400 US.
Which is necessary. I'm using 11 gigs of memory right now.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's like apps love, especially like video stuff and like any sort of like creator apps, they love memory.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is that $16.99 only gets you 512 gigs of internal storage,
which isn't enough.
So to bump that up to 2 terabytes is like an extra $600 US.
Yeah, this is what
like I don't understand. Like drives aren't that expensive.
Yeah, Apple is just notorious for its and I can recognize it from a business standpoint. Their pricing stack, or like your customization and your configuration, is, I think, it's industry leading in terms of how businesses sell products to consumers. And don't get me wrong, they get dirty with it, and this is getting dirty, in my opinion. Like, this is a MacBook Pro. The Pro line are professional. They're aimed at professionals. They're aimed at content creators, photographers, people that are dealing with video. Starts at $15.99. Only has 8 gig of RAM. So all of creators that are dealing with, I mean, you're not going to be able to, I would be surprised. And the MacBook would be chunking along if you put 4K footage in there. If you put 4K footage in there and you're playing around in Final Cut and you've got lots of timelines, you got lots of different audio files, angles, like say for this podcast or whatever, like that, those specs would not be enough to run this podcast, and I edit on Final Cut. This is just dirty.
Yeah, like, cause I think like the baseline price is actually pretty good. Like, you know, the iMac is a slick like desktop PC, right? Like, you know, for a creator or whatever, like it's like it just sits on your desk, and it's just a monitor with like the keyboard and mouse that just connect to it. It's, you know, minimal, sleek, stylish, powerful. But starting at $16.99, you're like, okay, that's a decent price. And then you look at the MacBook Pro, $15.99 is a decent price for you're getting like pro grade, you know, like slick Apple products here. So like these are like, you know, decent rigs, so to speak. But like to get the extras, like for the iMac is like an extra $1,000 US to get the memory and the storage that you need. And it's the same for like the MacBook Pros. Like the price looks okay, but then you're like, well, add that, and next thing you know, it's double what the listing.
Especially if you're if you're a content creator dealing with, or let's just say you're a wedding photographer or something like that, or a wedding photographer that does videography at the same time. You're dealing with a lot of files. You might have 3 of these apps open, such as like Photoshop, or if you're doing Cinema 4D text, and then you also got Final Cut on there as well. And if you're pushing it, you need to spend that $300. You need to spend that extra $400. Like 512 gigabytes is just not enough.
No, especially because like a big chunk of that is like apps and the OS. Right?
Yeah, like, the OS.
It's weird that they haven't added like a secondary storage on these things yet. Like you've just got like the unified, like the single one. Like most PCs, right? Like even doesn't matter what it is. Like you have your main drive, right, and then you've got your second SSD for just like straight storage. So you might like, even if you got a 512 for just the OS and apps, fair enough. But then you would have like an extra like 1 terabyte that sits next to it, or 2 terabytes as like expanded storage.
I would be shocked if Apple ever allowed its users to be able to put in an SSD without voiding warranty.
There would no way you would be able to open this thing.
There's
and also
no
it's
way.
A little
you
bit
can't even
stingy
open
because you've got like 2 USB ports and 2 Thunderbolt ports.
I'm not sure of what the connectivity is on them.
Yeah, I mean the display sounds pretty cool. I mean, their Retina displays have always been pretty good.
Oh, they're great. Like all of the monitors, they look fantastic. And while I am,
also don't get me wrong, like I would say yes to a new iMac.
Oh yeah,
to do work
definitely.
on. Yeah,
I've got a Mac Mini here on the M1, and that is, I mean that gets pushed to its max. Like that is the base model Mac Mini M1, and is what I use to edit all of the podcasts on. But when you're editing, and we record our podcast in 1080p, if you've got 3 angles of 1080p, you're almost at 4K. And if you have a display capture on as well, like say if we were capturing your displays, like we have now 4 angles of 1080p. We're now editing at 4K. This thing is like there's steam coming off of it. Yeah. When I've got that many angles going, it can do it, but the playback starts to chunk. So like if I click play, there'll be a delay, and then it will skip forward to where it should be. It gets messy. With the M3, I can imagine that it'll be able to do 4K, very low. I don't want to say quality, but it should be able to do 4K footage, and it will do it much faster than the M1 will. But I still think you're going to have some like stutter problems. Like it'll get through it, but you're going to have some playback issues, especially if you've got that much memory at stock. But
the thing is with like that sort of stuff, like the grunt that you need for 4K editing, that's when you kind of need like a GPU, like an NVIDIA GPU or something where it's just like hardware accelerated. You know, the NVENC and all that sort of stuff, like the Adobe hardware acceleration and for video editing and stuff like that just makes things so much easier. Like you can edit 4K like video on a GeForce RTX GPU very easily.
Yeah, for sure. I just really like Final Cut and Apple's OS. It just makes creating really easy. It's really stable, intuitive. I know you can do the same things on like in DaVinci Resolve and other program like After Effects and stuff like that. That's all very good. I just learned Final Cut, and it just makes it easy. AirDrop is something that we use in the studio every single day, like for moving files from the Mac Mini to the I got a 17-inch MacBook Pro, and it's running I think it's the last Intel chip on there. So it's like the model before they went to Apple's in-house chips, and I'm very upset about that, Kosta. The fact that I own a MacBook Pro that could cook an egg. That's how hot it gets when I'm trying to do video editing on there, and it's because of that Intel chip.
Yeah, well, they say that the M3 is 2.5 times faster than the Intel iMacs.
See, it's wild that they're comparing a 2023 chip to something that came out in 2017.
Yeah. it is like yeah, I know. Like the claims for like their M chips, like when they first announced the M1, remember they were saying like they even like what did they weirdly put up like some graph of like saying like it's like a faster GPU than a 3090 or something like that. They did something crazy with like GPU horsepower that wasn't really representative of what it can do. So like they are like powerful, like like especially in iPhones and MacBooks, but like it's not a replacement for a bleeding edge desktop rig.
No, I wouldn't pick up an M3 chip, one of these M3 MacBooks if you had an M1, especially if you had like a M1 MacBook Pro Max. Like you had all of the configurations, you had the extra storage, you had the extra unified memory. If you had all of that, I don't think you need to be looking at these. Maybe, I don't know. It depends on what you're doing. Like I was saying earlier, like if you're really pushing that with like 4K, maybe even 6K, like you're shooting in really high resolutions, maybe have a look at these. But if you're like myself, that has the last Intel MacBook Pro, I would be looking at these now, because I'm pretty sure that came out in 2017, didn't it?
Don't know. I'm not a Maxpert.
Maxpert. I like that, Kosta. Last Mac with Intel chip. Just want to get this. I'm pretty sure it was 2017 or 2018. When did the M1 come out?
The M1 wasn't that long ago. I thought it was like 2021 or something.
I'm not sure.
M1
MacBook
Apple
Pro
M1
Intel
series.
based.
Yeah, launched in 2020. So it would have been like 2019 or something like that. Would have been the last Intel.
Yeah. Wow. So what? That is 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23. That's 4 years. Imagine if you in your reviews compared the like 5090 to like a GeForce Titan from like the 10 series or something like that.
Yeah, I know. Well, like you can compare it, right? As long as you put it within context, right? So like if you like the 4060, let's say, and you compare that to the 1060, 2060, and 3060, like that's valid, right? So then you can see the progression over generations. But if you're just saying, if you just cut out the middle two and it's just like 1060 versus 4060, and that's the only comparison you've got, then it's a little disingenuous.
Yeah, that's what Apple are doing.
Yeah.
I don't think you could post that with without a guilty conscience. Like if you posted that graph between a 1060 and a 4060, and then that's all you talked about in your review, you're like, wow, it's 300% faster. It's
deep down you'll be like secretly just ashamed, and
you should be.
Yeah.
Is that all that we have on the new? Because this was kind of like a surprise.
They kind of just dropped it. But also, what I will say is that Scary Fast event, they shot it on the iPhone 15 Pro Max.
Yep.
With the M3 chip,
which they
made
picked up.
Oh, nice one. So they made a special like thingo that we shot this on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Yeah, it
was right at the end.
Yeah, and then you see like there's a behind the scenes stuff, and you see that it is that phone, but backed up by thousands of dollars worth of studio equipment and lighting.
Oh, right. Okay.
Makeup, like somebody doing the makeup for Tim Cook, and big studio lights, a studio setting, backdrops, composers, like art direction, like cinematographers and shit. So it's not like they just, I mean, technically, yes, they shot it on that, but they're using that as like a...
Yeah, you can't replicate this at home. This is...
No. You're not going to be like your backyard barbecue videos aren't going to start looking like this.
But it's still very good. Like when I first watched it, before I saw that little message at the end, which was kind of like the cherry on top for the event, I assumed that it was being shot on red cameras, like, extremely high end, full frame.
But there's been like shows like, was it Steven Soderbergh, who's a director who did like Traffic and a few other movies from the 2000s era, like Out of Sight, George Clooney and stuff like. Anyway, like from the 90s and 2000s, he did a miniseries for HBO like it's about 3 or 4 years ago. It's actually really, really good. He shot it all on iPhone.
Oh, really?
I think it's got Sharon Stone and a few other people. It's like a murder mystery. It's actually a really good series. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, it was shot entirely on iPhone cameras. So I think that, like, but you're talking about like he's an actual cinematographer. So like it actually looks really good. And unless somebody told you that, you would have just thought it was just like a red camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a digital red camera. But like it shows you that like, you can
it can be done.
It can be done. You can make a movie, a high quality, HBO type drama or even like a movie with your iPhone. It can be done.
Yeah, speaking of it can be done, the camera on the iPhone 15 Pro Max has been very impressive. I've been testing modes, and I'm thinking about doing an article that I'll speak about to you off camera before we'll talk about that
secrets
after the podcast. But as for the camera, I've got a basketball hoop in my backyard. It's my little brother's, and I was just testing the action mode. Right. And the action mode adds extra stabilization other than what's already inbuilt in the camera. So I was just doing like a basic walking test where I keep the basketball hoop in center frame. Maybe I'll send the footage in and it will play somewhere on the screen here. I just did a standard test, no action mode, and I'm moving across like almost around it, kind of like that, while walking, there is almost no shake. Even the standard mode looks like I'm not even walking. It looks like I'm gliding. And then I added the action mode, and it is unbelievable how much stabilization you can get off if you've got if you're just walking and you're already trying to be stable.
Have you connected it up to like a 4K TV or a 4K monitor just to see how it looks?
Well, that's what my article is about, Kosta, but I suppose we'll talk about it now.
Oh. Spoiler alert.
No, we made the cat's out of the bag. No, I was going to test it on, this is a 4K display here. I've got another one, but I'm looking at you on, and I'm thinking of testing, I just want to push my phone to the absolute max. I want to see what game, I want to record the frames for it as well. And I wanted to talk to you about posting that kind of article, because it's obviously I'm going to be testing the GPU and the CPU in it, and test gaming monitors. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll speak about that later, but everybody else stay tuned, because that sounds like a very cool article.
I just want like a headline like, I played Resident Evil on my iPhone 15 Pro Max. Here's how it was, or whatever, or whatever. Yeah. But yes, we should move on to NASA. This is saddening news for anyone that has been keeping up with the happenings on the Red Planet. It's not surprising if you've been following along with the story of the Mars Sample Return mission. I've been covering it for, it feels like, I don't know, it's probably 2.5 years or so, ever since they landed Perseverance in the Jezero crater in 2021. They just long and the short of it, they want to get the samples that Perseverance is capturing, back to Earth. Unfortunately, that is extremely expensive, and the plan, well, it's hardly a plan, really. It's the budget constraints that NASA is under. They're not receiving the funding from the US government that they're requesting, which is making the scheduling time, let's say, rocky. It's not looking good. So they did NASA has multiple independent review boards that review their mission plans and then basically give advice back to the operations control of those missions. So the independent review board will look at the plan and be like, okay, well, you're going to blow money here. This is where it sucks. Here's where we need changes. This is how much money we've got to work with, so on and so forth. So they published a report and found key problems within NASA's budgeting and overall schedule. For example, NASA's current plan for its Mars Sample Return mission is projected to cost $8 billion, with a total of $11 billion throughout its entire life cycle. We're talking billions here. Additionally, the space agency plans to launch the mission in 2028 and get the samples back on Earth by mid-2030. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. So what are the problems?
That already seems like it's far out. That already seems like it's like miles out, like 2028, 2030. It's like, hurry up.
I could be dead by then. Let's hope not. That was kind of crazy. that was kind of crazy. The report states that if the agency doesn't receive the funding it's requesting, it'll be knocked off schedule. Notably, the Mars Sample Return mission received $822.3 million in 2023 in a 2023 spending bill, when NASA requested $949.3 million. Furthermore, NASA requested an additional $250 million this fiscal year and in 2024 to ensure that development isn't delayed and the timeline of a launch/return isn't blown off course. This is going to get delayed. From what I've seen out of NASA, they aren't sure exactly how they are going to get the samples back. Last week we talked about Ingenuity, the Mars helicopter breaking its speed record. The success of that helicopter has made NASA consider a backup plan. I'll see if
the helicopter to fly the samples back.
Exactly right. So
Right. Like, what? Is that
You're
actually
not
right?
even kidding. So like Ingenuity was such a success that their backup plan for getting the samples on the rocket that is then shot off of Mars, they're thinking of 2 to 3 helicopters. If the initial plan of collecting the samples from Perseverance through this small robot that then transfers it to the rocket doesn't work, say it falls into like a crater or something, then 2 Ingenuity helicopters will then fly over to where Perseverance has dropped off a stockpile of samples. It literally just pooped it out on the ground, and they're like, we'll get these later. If the ones that were are inside Perseverance for whatever reason, like if Perseverance falls in a crater or whatever, so these little Ingenuity helicopters will then pick up the poop samples. They're not actual poop, but Perseverance did poop them out.
It could be fossil remains of alien poop.
Hey, I mean, talk about a jackpot. And then fly them over to the rocket. And then the rocket will blast off the red planet into the orbit, and then back to Earth. That is an alternative plan. We're not even on solid ground for how we're going to get these samples back. All we keep doing is collecting samples. Perseverance is chockers.
Yeah.
That's why it is, it's crapping it out on the ground. But, this is disappointing. Upsetting, and I would say if I was to go on the record on guessing when we would see these Martian samples arriving on Earth, late 2030.
Wow, that's what.
I'll be like 40. Oh, I won't be 40. That's ridiculous. I'll be getting close to 40. I'll be feeling 40. All right, let's move on to the next one. Something a bit happier.
Yeah, let's keep it to space, and something that's also going to take that has taken 10 years.
Yes.
How much do you know about Star Citizen, Mr. Jak Connor?
I know that it could be the biggest cash grab, fallacy, lie in PC gaming history. This game, Chris Roberts is just chatted it up for years. Biggest crowdfunding. Isn't it the biggest crowdfunding thing ever? Or is that
it's hundreds of millions of dollars. No, it's the budget's already exceeded hundreds of millions of dollars. So Star Citizen is Chris Roberts, who created Wing Commander, his big next game project. Now, there's obviously been controversy because it has been in development for a decade. Because this thing had its Kickstarter campaign back in 2012. Right? That's over. It's been in development for over a decade, and it's just been like people in that have followed its development. Essentially, one of the big reasons for the delays is obviously mismanagement.
Yeah, he spent all the coin.
And the other one is feature creep, which is a game development thing where you don't lock in the design of a game. Somebody says, hey, why don't we add realistic hair physics? Okay, well, that's going to take 6 months. Hey, why don't we have it so you can walk inside and out with your gun, and then you can hop into your ship, then take off, or whatever. Why don't we have like realistic atmospheric simulation? Why don't we just have layers of clouds and weather that's determined by that we physically calculate, blah, blah, the long list. And apparently this game has thousands of those things that have been added to its scope over the years.
10 years later.
Mm-hmm. But have you seen this tech demo?
I'm looking at it now.
So the Star Engine tech demo is captured in... it's an in-engine tech demo. So they recently changed their technology to a new engine called the Star Engine, which is always a red flag when you change engines late into a game's development. But this 24-minute video is a little bit insane in terms of the scope. Star Citizen, we've seen No Man's Sky, so being able to take off from a planet and then go into space and then land on another planet is not necessarily as we haven't seen that before as it used to be. But the realistic visuals here are truly next level. Like the actual atmospheres, the atmosphere tech. So when the ship is like in orbit and you see like the clouds and all the all the different layers of the atmosphere like fully like rendered and modeled and stuff like that, and you can then fly through it. That's that's bananas, right? The level of detail. It is insane, the level of detail.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. It is very impressive. How much money did this game crowdsource?
Let's have a look at latest
What's it
budget.
up to? I can't believe they have the audacity to say that this is in the polish phase at the moment. You're having a laugh.
300 million in 2020, 400 million in November 2021. It passed 500 million in September 2022 in terms of funding from backers.
It's like a Marvel movie.
Yeah. So
does this look like a Marvel movie?
It looks insane, right? But there's also the question of like how much of this is actually playable, how much of this is just in engine. Like it works, but it's not exactly really doing anything apart from looking visually cool.
It's very impressive.
As far as tech demos go, it's next level.
Yeah, I'm watching it on 1.5 speed right now. This is nuts.
Mm-hmm. And like one of the reasons why Star Citizen has been delayed as well is that Chris Roberts has decided to develop a game called Squadron 42 at the same time.
Is that the one with Henry Cavill?
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. Same
bloke. Luke Skywalker. It's got Mark Hamill, Gary Oldman, Gillian Anderson, Mark Strong, John Rhys Davies. It's like a star-studded cast. But it's a single-player game, and it's using the Star engine.
Yeah.
And so alongside this tech demo, they also released a 26-minute presentation for Squadron 42, which is also as equally impressive, right? So this game has been in development for 10 years too, and it shows ship combat, on-foot stuff, cinematic sequences with the blockbuster production values and stuff like that. There's like a Half-Life 2 style gravity gun. It's puzzles, the space combat, tactical FPS action. It's so it's a linear cinematic game using the Star engine. And this has been in development for like a decade too.
I'm very excited for this. And just a sidebar, Henry Cavill is in this game.
He is?
He is.
Okay.
I'll send you look at Discord. I'll send a photo of it. That's a link to an article. Give me 1 second. He is. I remember this from 10 years ago. He is. Look at him. Henry Cavill. It is a star-studded cast. You are right. It is. It's like an ensemble.
Holy shit! Yeah. Okay. There you go. I'm keen. I'm keen for this.
I'm more excited for this than Star Citizen.
I am too, because I'm a fan of Wing Commander back in the day, and like a single player sort of like insane like cast and like production values. But like this is the one where it says where they've said the game is now feature complete and we're now in the polishing phase. So Chris Roberts says, now we're in the polishing phase of Squadron 42. You'll start to see a lot more things coming to Star Citizen. So now they actually can shift more resources back to Star Citizen, as well as overall progress on the persistent universe. That's all the crazy stuff you see in the tech demo.
Yeah.
He also adds, the polish phase can take some time. We have come this far, and we want to make sure that Squadron 42 delivers on the promise of being this generation's Wing Commander.
I hope it does.
Feature complete is a good sign, right? That's a milestone in game development. From my understanding in reporting on games for as long as I have, is that when a game is feature complete and in the polishing phase, that doesn't mean that the release is months out.
So it's not gold.
We're still no. It's
pre-gold.
It's like an alpha sort of thing.
Right.
Like an alpha, it means you could play the game from start to finish.
Okay.
And so now they have to just fine tune everything. And this could take a year, it could take 2 years, it could take 3 years.
So you did get a game a year or so prior.
Yes. Yeah, so I've had access to a high profile recent-ish.
Recent-ish. Came out this year.
I'll have to be a bit vague. But yeah,
Of course.
I got to play like a version under NDA a year before it came out.
And would that be feature complete?
Yes, that was feature complete. So the full game was there, right? But that also meant that it was interesting to see because it being fully playable, yes, but it also means that some of like the stuff like like dialogue scenes that have been recorded haven't actually been put into the game yet. Like there might be like dummy characters. There might be like sequences that are just like a rough cut, almost like an animatic, like when you see like movie behind the scenes, Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. They use animatics and stuff like that. So like there's like a lot of stuff is kind of like still in a rough shape that just needs to be finished, right? They need to do further passes on art and things like that. Now the 26-minute demo that you see here is obviously highlighting highly polished,
of course,
sections of the game, or like parts of the game that are like pretty.
They're
close to done. Yeah. And using the new engine, it all looks great. And I'm keen to play it. But like, this has been going on for so long that I obviously, it could all just be smoke and mirrors. But I love a good tech demo and a good presentation. And the Star Citizen and Squadron 42 stuff looks pretty awesome, I must say.
Yeah.
And
for the amount of money that it has received.
Yeah, $500 million.
is a lot.
It's $500 million.
I'm excited for it, but I'm also kind of pissed off that it's been 10 years and they've taken everyone's money and produced at best game. And at best, the performance is shoddy. The game is barely pieced together. It feels like they're spread too thin. They're working on too many different things, and I think that's highlighted and reflected by them saying, "Oh, Squadron 42 is almost feature complete. That means we can move people over to Starfield." It's like we'll just hire more people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they're constantly hiring. But like I don't know, like it doesn't matter like how many people you throw at a project, right? Like it takes more than just like
10 years
body count. Yeah,
takes more than 10 years.
No, like it.
Should we give them more money, Costa? Do you think that would solve it?
I think what you should do is like some of the big Star Citizen whales. I would like you to start playing and then go visit the in-game shipyards and spend $10,000 to $15,000 US on a fancy spaceship for yourself, and then you can invite me, and then I'll come and I'll be a passenger, and you can fly me around.
We get robbed so fast.
You can take me on like a star tour of Star Citizen.
We would fly off that planet and just get murked in just lower Earth orbit, and then we'd just be standing there on the star deck, just like, remember that ship that we spent all of our money on? Yeah, there it goes.
You spent like that much money on an in-game spaceship.
No, very cool. I am very excited for Squadron 42. I will play it. That's something that I love. Henry Cavill. I love Mark Hamill and that cast. I mean, name a game that has come out that has that many high-profile A-list actors in it.
Like just a sci-fi action epic. Yeah, like it hasn't been done.
When was the last game? Would it be? I mean, it's surely not Wing Commander. We've seen. What other actors have been in recent games? Not many.
But like a game with like the only comparison is kind of like Starfield, right? Because this has like space combat, it has like FPS missions, but this is more like Call of Duty-ish, or as in like their linear levels, or like their set pieces. Yeah. But I don't think there's been like a game that has like high end like space combat, like aerial, like in the atmosphere, out in space, like full on like space combat, and then you jump out of your spaceship and you're in 0G or you're on a planet's surface. That's and then sick. Then you got like tactical FPS action and Call of Duty style, like, just epic shooting stuff.
It's gonna be sick. Speaking of aircrafts, unless you've got more to speak on this topic.
No, I'm fine.
Alrighty. Let's move on to the Google co-founder's 400-foot airship that just got approved for flight. In what seems like a supervillain move. This looks like a thing that like Lex Luthor would own.
Yes.
Or go on.
Yeah. No, I was just about to say exactly. Like it is a supervillain.
To have a blimp.
But my question to you is there a difference between supervillain and tech billionaire?
No. No, no, of course there is. The difference is Elon Musk. That's the difference. I mean, questionable. Just a teaser. Elon Musk just appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast, and before we started this podcast and before my power went out, I was listening to it, and they fired a bow. Joe fired a 80-pound bow at the Cybertruck to test its bulletproof metal. It just dented it. It was so sick. That's just the sidebar. Let's back to the blimp. Okay, so this blimp, Google co-founder Sergey Brin for Pathfinder 1. Sergey Brin made this blimp called Pathfinder 1. It's a 400-foot airship that the Federal Aviation Administration just granted a test flight license for. Now, you may ask, why would you need a 400-foot airship that is a blimp when you're Sergey Brin?
Mm-hmm.
So, it is designed
is there an answer?
For regular air traffic. It is designed for disaster relief. So, fast transportation to disaster relief areas. I also made that face when I read that. I think there's secret missions happening inside of this blimp. Roundtable meetings. I don't know where this is going to go. Like, it is being approved to fly up to a height of 1,500 feet, but its flight test will only be over south side of San Francisco Bay Area, where it won't interfere with any regular air traffic. I'm guessing once it gets approved there, it can then fly in different spots. Also, if you're thinking about the Hindenburg disaster that happened in 1937, where that big old blimp just erupted into flames, that won't happen.
Gas,
What was that, sorry?
Because it's like full of
hydrogen.
Gas. Hydrogen.
Yeah, and hydrogen is extremely flammable. Notably, this is what they've done to stop this. Notably, the aircraft is designed and built by Brin co-founded company Lighter Than Air, which is equipped the blimp with 12 electric motors and a frame that's made out of titanium and carbon fiber. These structural design choices mean the aircraft is light enough to fly with non-flammable helium rather than
there's non-flammable helium?
I don't know what that means. I'm not sure. I'm not a chemist. I like tech. I fix computers.
All this time, there's been non-flammable helium.
I don't know. All they're saying is that this won't explode. Well, yeah, we'll see.
When it comes to like the Hindenburg, right, and like the blimps, and obviously that disaster kind of like put an end to giant blimps, and he's calling this an airship, but it's a big old blimp.
It's a blimp. Airship sounds cool.
Yeah,
it's not.
They kind of look cool, and like it would have been ages ago when I looked up. I'm like why, why aren't we riding around in blimps and stuff?
What about the blimps?
Outside of the flammable helium, but the speed of them is kind of pretty crap. They suck. Slow. And they're so it's not like you're going to be traveling long distances in a blimp.
Yeah, they stink.
It's you might as well just catch a train or a plane.
And a bit of wind,
or
gone.
An automobile.
You're just out into the middle of the ocean, just gone. A gust of wind. Nothing you can do. You got a tiny little thing
How much does this thing cost?
I don't know. I got no idea. I just thought it was really funny that a Google co-founder is building one.
As far as tech billionaire stuff goes, this is pretty. It's kind of fun though. I mean, because the alternative could be some sort of
rocket to
weird
space.
Island.
I don't know. Maybe we do that.
Oh, true.
No, he built a blimp.
No.
We need as many rockets to get to Mars as possible. So he's like, you know what? I'll build a blimp. Can only go up to 1,500 feet in altitude, and it will save people in disaster areas. And I'll have secret meetings on it.
He doesn't want to get people to space. He wants to get people back to the early 20th century.
Look, if he invited me to come onto this blimp, I'd go.
Oh yeah, I'd go
immediately.
Do all the disaster relief.
I'd help. I don't know what I would do. I would.
Or you're just flying over, just throwing
Yeah,
like,
just to
things
slag
now,
off
like
the edge. I'll
supplies.
just
Here's a towel.
yeah, here's a towel. Oh, you meant to the disaster-stricken areas.
Flying over,
No, I
you're flying
wouldn't
over
spit
the
on those
disaster
people.
area in this blimp. Or like, you can't land a blimp, right? Like, if there's, what are you doing with a blimp over a disaster area?
I don't know.
Like, it just gets things easier. Like, the thing
Yeah.
is gigantic, right?
Yeah, okay. So the idea behind Pathfinder 1 is to deliver large amounts of cargo and pairs of hands to people
okay.
suffering in disaster-stricken regions. So it's like a people and cargo mover. Fair enough. I would
only
only
there
go
was-
on it with a permanent parachute attached to my back. I would, because then at any moment I would just bail out of it like a legend. Just fly down. I would fall out. All right, let's move on. We got another story here. NVIDIA and others are looking to make CPUs for Windows. Talk to me.
Yeah. All right. Let's bring it back to the world of technology.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, there's been a couple of interesting things happening in the CPU space. So ARM-based CPUs, which are different to x86-based CPUs, so like the M3 chip, Apple's M3 chip is ARM-based. ARM is a company that creates a type of CPU technology, and they just license it out to people. NVIDIA was looking to acquire them a few years ago. That fell through. They were going to acquire them for like 40 billion or something like that.
Jeez.
So there is obviously like a lot of focus on ARM-based CPUs. So you got AMD, Qualcomm making these CPU designs. But the interesting thing is that NVIDIA is also jumping into the mix. They're going to make their own CPUs that will be able to run on, or they'll be compatible with Windows PCs, or they're designing ARM-based CPUs for Windows PCs that could arrive as soon as 2025.
Wow, it's around the corner.
Yeah. And
What?
so we've seen the absolute high end of what this could be, which is the Grace Hopper super chip.
Yep.
NVIDIA's, ridiculously expensive AI supercomputer chip. So the Grace part of that is the CPU. That's an ARM-based CPU, and then the Hopper side is the GPU. And it's designed for AI. So most likely, what they're doing here is designing CPUs for Windows workstations, right? So these will be like high-end PCs that will run Windows that could be used for, that most likely be used for AI stuff and productivity things. And so they would have basically be kitted out with a NVIDIA CPU, one of these new CPUs, and one of their workstation GPUs, like the A4000s or whatever they're called. So it is pretty kind of cool. The weird thing is that obviously, not a weird thing, but like one of the funny things is that during Intel's latest earnings call with investors, somebody asked the CEO about, NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm, all making these new or developing ARM-based CPUs, and they're going to be, for Windows PCs, which obviously, as we know, that's where Intel's bread and butter sits.
Oh, of course.
When it comes to workstations and servers and things like that. So Pat Gelsinger is the Intel CEO, and his response is that ARM and Windows client alternatives, they've been relegated to pretty insignificant roles in the PC business. We take all our competition seriously, but I think history is our guide here. We don't see these as potentially being all that significant overall.
Just
so he's
wait,
basically
mate.
just
wait.
He's like meh. Like one of the hurdles is that an ARM-based CPU needs to emulate x86 architecture or Windows stuff. But the thing is, Microsoft is investing heavily into ARM as well. So they could be just, optimizing Windows for ARM CPUs. And if AMD and NVIDIA are on board, I would say, and Qualcomm, I would say it's more than insignificant.
That's why I said just wait. That's something that, I don't know, it kind of speaks to two different things. It's either like Intel is that confident that they're almost arrogant, or
or they just don't want to show
they're scared.
You don't want to see them sweat. Yeah,
it's one or the other. It's one or the other, because that response is quite binary there. It's like we take all of our competition seriously, but I think our history is our guide here. We don't see these as potentially being all that significant overall.
Yeah.
Either you're short-sighted or you're just like, meh, what are they going to do?
And there's a little bit of contradiction too, because Intel is investing heavily in foundries, so they're looking to take on TSMC and Samsung when it comes to creating their own CPU, their own chips, not only for themselves but for other people. So Intel, they have like a long history with foundries and creating their own, their own chips. But as of now, like the Apple M3 chip that we spoke about earlier, that that's using TSMC 3 nanometer process technology, which is the absolute cutting edge of the cutting edge.
Yeah.
In terms of GPUs, the 40 series from NVIDIA is using TSMC 4 nanometer, like a custom 4 nanometer node. And that's currently the most cutting edge GPU process or chip technology available now. And so Intel is looking to create, like their own like advanced process nodes, and they want other customers to like NVIDIA to like say, hey, we want you to make the chips for our next XXX. So, on one hand, Intel is saying, this is going to be insignificant. Then on the other hand, they add, thinking about, alternative architectures like ARM, Pat Gelsinger adds, we also say, wow, what a great opportunity for our foundry business. So if these companies are making ARM-based CPUs, then it's going to be awesome for our foundry business because we'll be able to produce them. But it's like, I thought, it's contradicting because if they're not significant, why is that great?
But we want to make them.
Yeah.
What?
It's
This is bizarre.
So it's a weird sort of like little response.
Is that just like a corporate contradiction?
Yeah. But it's like selling. Yeah, it's
like on one side the corporate face is like, yeah, I mean, don't worry about these ARM chips. Oh, the other people are making. Don't worry about them. Yeah. But this will be healthy. We'll be able to make them.
Yeah, all these ARM chips is going to be really good for our brand new factory over here that makes chips.
Okay, Intel. You're excited, but don't be excited.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the one question though is that this raises is that will we see a future where you could buy a gaming PC that has like a 6090 or a 7090 or a 5090 or 50 series GPU with an NVIDIA ARM based CPU. Will NVIDIA get to that point? Will they be able to get it running on Windows and with working with Microsoft or whatever the case is in terms of working with their GPUs? But like, will they be able to then create like use AI stuff with the CPU and GPU? Like would they make a play for the actual consumer CPU market?
I think they will. I think it's only a matter of time. Like, why wouldn't they? They've got such a lead in GPUs over AMD. AMD survives because of its CPUs. It's not because of its GPUs. I can imagine some incredible, and I think we've spoken about this on the show previously. I can't remember the episode, but I think we were talking about if AMD released some magical tech that was kind of like, for all intents and purposes, Infinity Fabric between the CPU and the GPU, and it would give you X boost in performance.
Yeah.
So
yes, that's right. Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, I can't remember what episode it was, but imagine if NVIDIA did something like that. Like if you wanted to go green and you were even, let's say, a pre-built desktop computer with this specific configuration with the 4070 or 5070 paired with an NVIDIA ARM chip, you now get 25% boost in performance in-game in every single game. Why would you not, as a gamer? Everyone's already running NVIDIA chips, NVIDIA graphics cards.
Yeah.
You may as well go. You may as well go and
80%
get the NVIDIA ARM CPU. I would.
Yeah, and they could integrate graphics on it. Like they could just put like low level, like it'd be like pretty exciting. Because also as well, like I think you might be right as well, because if you look at like like AMD, like their biggest success recently has been with their mobile processors that have APU functionality. So they're like the stuff that's in the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally that has powerful CPU architecture as well as like GPUs, integrated into the CPU. And that's something that like NVIDIA can't really do because they don't make CPUs, right? So either you're going to put their mobile GPU in your handheld device or you're not. And most people aren't because like it comes down to power usage, right? So if the new that Ryzen, the Phoenix architecture, which is really, really good in the ROG Ally and the new Lenovo Legion, as well as like, the older versions of that sort of technology in the Steam Deck, it's proving to be like pretty popular because you're getting like low power usage but really good performance for gaming. And that's a sector that NVIDIA can't really, or doesn't really have anything that slots in.
Yeah, it's strange.
Unless they make their own CPU.
Yeah, it's strange. Intel are making GPUs now with the Arc, predominantly CPU business. Now, NVIDIA, predominantly GPUs, is now pushing towards CPUs. AMD has done both for how long?
Ages, yeah. Well, since like the days of like Athlon and other old school CPUs and was it ATI cards and things like that.
Everyone's making each other's stuff, which is what I like. I mean, it's all great for the consumer because competition is going to drive these prices down. And it's also going, like, we're kind of at the stage where the performance is so good across almost any configuration of PC hardware. It's almost like you can achieve 1080p 60, which is like bare minimum for gaming, with something that's relatively cheap. And so what we're going to see throughout more products from different competing brands coming out is technology such as DLSS and all of these things that you'll probably end up going green for NVIDIA Remix or something like that. Like that's why, because the performance is already there if at the bare minimum state of gaming. Like if you're a real budget gamer, but you will still get all of these cool tech or all of these cool technologies that come with it. I think it's going to start to go towards that kind of way because 1080p like 60 is that's, I mean, it's garbage for me because I've run 240 hertz at 1440p and 4K and stuff like that. But budget gamers, I think like we're already at 1080p 60. We're moving into 1440p at like the budget level of PC components. So I think we'll see more technologies to attract gamers to buy certain brands. Bit gatekeepy, kind of stinks a little bit, but
yeah, it is gatekeepy. But I mean,
why else would you go? Like that's we're already at the performance level for it. It's like why else would I upgrade ever then?
Exactly, and like I mean, like the proof is in like the
in
the results, right? So like AMD's FSR 2 and 3 is open source, so it works on all GPUs. They developed their algorithm not to be dependent on AI hardware or proprietary hardware or whatever the case is. And DLSS, obviously, it was introduced in the 20 series, requires tensor cores. And but the thing is now is that there's been 3 generations of the RTX cards. So now the majority of GeForce cards out there are RTX cards. So it's no longer as gatekeepy within NVIDIA. So that sort of has died down the conversation. But the end result is DLSS looks better.
Of course.
FSR looks good, but DLSS looks better. And one of the reasons for that is maybe because like it's proprietary hardware and proprietary tech.
That's exactly right.
If you look at Intel, they do a mix, right? Intel XeSS uses AI hardware where you enable it on an Intel card. And when you enable it on a non-Intel card, it uses a separate algorithm for temporal for its upscaling. And it doesn't look as good as the version when you're running it on an Intel card. And that kind of like proves the point where it's like, well, yeah, like if you're developing your tech for your own AI hardware or your own proprietary hardware, then it's just going to look better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Apple is the epitome of that. It's like you can't even customize their stuff, but that's how they get such good performance out of it, especially in terms of like battery life, heating, cooling, the form factor, all of it. It's like they don't let you change a single thing. And if you want to add anything to it, it costs you $300. And they have to do it. And if you even try and do it, you void warranty. Unless you go to an Apple store, of course. But yeah, they're a company that has famously moved away from customization or letting consumers customize their products. But through doing that, they can squeeze every last bit of performance out of it and optimize their applications for that specific configuration of hardware.
That's why consoles are like, you know, they always punch above their weight visually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's why, like, because the Nintendo Switch, the original Switch, all right, sure, games look dated now and it's creaking and cracking under the pressure, but I mean, the thing has a version of The Witcher 3 running on it and, you know, Doom Eternal and things like that. But this is like hardware from 2013 and, you know, like it was when NVIDIA showcased their Tegra chip, it was running Doom 3, right? Doom 3 is a game from 2016 or 7.
Oh, 6.
Doom.
I was thinking 2016, sorry.
Not even 2016 Doom.
Yeah.
So then when that chip was in the Switch and people got actually 2016 Doom running on it, people were like, what? How? Why? How did you do that?
Impressive.
Because like, you know, you're optimizing for that specific configuration.
And I think through that, and just to bring it back to the NVIDIA ARM CPUs, it's evident that if you have a select configuration of hardware that you can optimize your software much more efficiently and get much more out of it. So with that being said, I think it's almost a no-brainer that NVIDIA will roll out its own CPUs, offer extra performance when they're paired with the NVIDIA GPUs. Yep. I think that is an obvious step. If I was NVIDIA, that's what I would be pushing for. That would, and if you do that and you offer, let's say the performance increase is like 35% across every game, like it is hands down shocking. You will now be dictating the CPU market as well, and you're going to squeeze AMD and Intel to the point where they're going to have to release their own software that does the same thing.
Yep.
Because
there's also like,
why would you ever run a mismatch if that's the case?
Yeah, I know.
It's like a someone cut that. It's like you know, a set bonus in like an RPG. It's like when I've got the entire hat, like pets and robot and shoes, I get a 40% damage increase.
That's the best way to summarize it.
There we go. All right, put a plug in that one. All right, what do we got next on the menu here? Elon Musk is after your financials, Kosta, and he will get them.
Of course he is.
Of course he is.
Yeah, rich got to stay rich by picking on the little guy.
No, it's a bit of an egregious kind of headline. But it is true. I mean, it's not clickbait at all. It is. He does want your entire financial life, but on X, formerly called Twitter. Oh, pardon me here. So this isn't surprising if you've been following the Musk's acquisition of X, which happened last month, last year.
Okay, I was about to say what?
Yeah, October.
Last month.
October 2022.
Last month, last year.
Last month, last year. Yeah.
It's a weird way to phrase it.
That was ridiculous. I should have said that.
You just said a year ago.
I could have just said that. Yeah, I don't know why I said that.
When he acquired it last month. but last week, last month.
All right.
2 years ago.
Okay, so Elon Musk acquired then Twitter, October 2022.
I still call it Twitter.
Hey?
I still call it Twitter.
Yeah, a lot of people have and still do. Leading up to that, he said it was going to be, he wanted to purchase it to create the Everything app. And this would be a single unified app with all of the features that are scattered around in other applications on your phone. So banking, maybe even if you're into stock trading, being able to send money. So like if I wanted to send you $20 again through the banking, and there'd be a banking app feature. Obviously a social space, direct messages, calling, basically chat, everything. Chat, video chatting, all of that stuff. Games, yes. So he wants to create the Everything app.
Yeah, like streaming games and stuff.
Pardon?
He recently, like game streaming too, like he wants it to be Twitch because he recently started streaming Diablo 4 a little while ago, like on X. Which is funny. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Musk playing Diablo 4 on X.
That's funny as. What a legend. So this is the push towards that, this financial life. So during X's latest earnings call, Musk explained that he plans on turning X into a bank that has a seamless payment system between users, and that this feature would be implemented into the platform by the end of next year. Musk further iterated that this payment system wouldn't be as simple as sending $20 to someone, but would also include support for securities to be moved from one individual to another. So I'll be able to send you $20, but I'll also be able to send you, I don't know, stock in Apple. That's kind of crazy. Like to have a social media platform, be able to send assets and securities to each other. That would, I think that's going to attract a lot of people to be able to do that, because you can move, like the integration between communication of users are so close to each other on Twitter, if you know what I mean. Like Instagram, you feel a little bit more disconnected, because if you send someone a direct message, you hope that they reply, but if they've got way more followers than you, they're probably being inundated with messages. Twitter has always felt like if you see someone tweet and you tweet a reply, there's a pretty high likelihood that they see it.
Yeah, it's always been more of a communication, or like even like when he described it as like a public square or whatever it is, where people can go and discuss and voice their opinion. Like that's kind of true, because that's kind of like Twitter at its best, is to be able to instantly share something, but then instantly respond and engage.
Yeah, back and forth in a thread
with friends or people you don't know, or
Yeah. So I think having a payment system on the platform, I will definitely be testing it out. I don't know whether I'll be using it. Australia, Twitter isn't that big here, but I know in the US it is. It's huge. It's got over 200 million monthly active users. It's the lifeblood of social media over there. But I don't know. How do you feel about
like
the Everything
stuff
app?
Like on X and making Everything app? It just seems weird to me. But then again, like I'm not saying, hey, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard or anything like that. I just not too sure like how it would work. But I understand like consolidating all these things into a single platform. That makes sense. But the problem is that when it comes to like apps and the digital age, it's never a case of one thing being able to do a lot of things very well. You know what I mean? Like the problem is that like, when it comes to, let's say, encrypted communication with people that you got Telegram, you've got Signal, you've got like these platforms that are known just for that, right? So if you want to have conversations with friends, that are encrypted, that aren't going to be used for metadata and to send you ads and stuff like that, that there's apps for that. When it's just communicating with friends and stuff like that, you've got WhatsApp, you've got Zoom for work stuff, you've got this like what I'm saying is that like there's apps that do single things really, really well, that if you want to get Twitch is good for game streaming. There's obviously Kick now as a competitor with that. But like, you know, like adding that into X is super interesting. But like, how do you juggle all these different things and make it all better than alternatives things? I mean, because like Elon Musk has a history with PayPal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And PayPal as a way to just simply transfer money globally, and integrate it into storefronts and credit cards and link it to bank accounts is the standard, right? Like if you want to buy something online from a source that you're not entirely sure with, if it offers PayPal, you're like, okay, that's fine. I can.
Yeah, you feel way better about purchasing it.
Like back in the day, you'll be just like, oh, what? I'm just going to chuck my credit card info into this random web forum.
So afraid. So afraid to do it back then.
So like my hesitation is just based on, well, like, is it really going to be like, sure, it might be able to do all these things, but is it going to be good enough for people to take notice and to say, or to make the switch from?
Yeah, you don't want the Everything app to be able to do everything. What is the right word for it? You want the Everything app.
Yeah.
You don't want the Everything app to be able to do everything poorly. You want it to be able to do things better than what they're already doing in their single dedicated apps. Like for people to use these features, they will need to be better than the apps that they are using individually. No one will use them then. Like if sending money is a pain in the ass on Twitter or X, no one's going to do it. It needs to be as seamless as PayID is in the Commonwealth Bank app. Like me just writing in Kosta's phone number, like 04 whatever. And then I just, bam, send you the cash and it's there instantly. Yeah. That's as, it needs to do that. It needs to be as fast as that. Sending assets, it needs to be, or security, it needs to be as quick as that. I'm worried that it's going to be like a situation where it's like a jack of all trades, but master of none.
Yeah, that's what that's essentially the concern with it, is that like how good can it be? But you know, I mean,
we'll see what happens.
Twitter's algorithms and servers, you know, when they're cooking, like how fast and how that system whole works. I mean, every now and then, like if you're using the platform, you know, stop to just like, you know, when you refresh, and like the fact that you're just getting all this stuff instantly, and like when you post something, it's instant, and then it goes into the algorithm instantly, and then that's refreshed and all that sort of stuff. Like it's mind-blowing how powerful the platform already is and how good it is at what it does. So you know, there is obviously room to expand it into other areas and avenues. It'd just be, you know, like when it's something like an Everything app that does all this sort of payment stuff, and everything that you need to do online, you can just do it within this. Like it sounds interesting, but like, you know, I don't know if it's going to work in practice. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see how. I can't see it. Like, you know, like it doesn't instantly be like, oh yes, that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, he needs to show me. Working. That's what it needs to. Like, it's all well and good to say that you're going to build the Everything app, but I need to see it. Here's just a quote from ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino, who wrote in a blog post around the time of the earnings call. We want money on X to flow as freely as information and conversation. We have already secured first money transmitter licenses in several states, and we are moving toward launching a global payment system more soon. We'll just finish off on that story. So, this is something that has been in the works for a while. Again, end of next year is when Musk is projecting this is to be rolled out on a global scale. We'll see if it will attract users and get people off their own banking apps. We'll see. Let's move on to
Skyrim and Metal Gear Solid. So they're cool mod stories. Skyrim inside Age of Empires 2 and Metal Gear Solid.
Let's go. Skyrim inside one of my all-time favorite games ever.
So many people's online all-time favorites. Yeah, Age of Empires 2.
Age of Empires 2, man. As a kid, 11, 12, 13 years old, this is all I did on an old compact computer. And the fact that like
Classic.
these old compact, you had like the whole thing out the back, it was rough. You turn it on, it sounded like a jet engine. So what has happened? A Skyrim superfan has recreated the entire game inside Age of Empires 2. Spent 400 hours doing this. So here's what happened. Specifically, Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. The Reddit post was by user Grouchy Bluejay 4511, an alias account for, how do you pronounce that?
Bubba Baylor.
Bubba, that's his username. Bubba Baylor. The mastermind behind the project, which took more than 400 hours of work and more than a year to complete. Bubba Baylor explains that their mod contains more than 50 quests, 100 unique characters, and the ability for players to play as one of the holds vying for control of Skyrim. Additionally, just real quick, you can play the entire Skyrim main storyline inside Age of Empires 2, Kosta.
This is bananas, right? So this is Age of Empires 2 with the isometric visuals. Like you're looking, classic RTS sprites, StarCraft, Warcraft, top-down RTS game, and recreated all of Skyrim, like
one-to-one scales.
Yeah, like you can see, like as soon as I saw like the screenshot of like Whiterun, I'm like, oh, that's Whiterun. Like it's like fan recreates Skyrim in Age of Empires 2, and then you see the screenshot and you're like, okay, yeah, that's Whiterun. I can tell that's the keep there, and that's like you can actually see the layout, like when you're walking through the gates, because I've put so many hours into Skyrim.
Yeah.
You can just like picture like walking through the streets. I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty cool map. Like this like doubles as a good like map for Skyrim. Like even if you're playing normal Skyrim, you could print out screenshots of this mod and just use it as a map to get around.
That's a great idea. That is awesome. I'm sure the modder would love that. So I'll just read a quote from the original story here. The map has the entire main quest of Skyrim scripted. So 7 players control different holds, and 1 player, Falkreath,
yeah.
Falkreath.
The most boring city.
the most boring city.
It is the most boring city.
Gets to control the Dragonborn. All the main side quests are also scripted, from Azure Star to the Dark Brotherhood. You've got Blood on the Ice and Walking Nightmares, etc. Over 50 quests for the Dragonborn player, and the more you complete, the more OP your Dragonborn gets. The buildings are named, and there is something like 75 unique heroes/characters you earn by in-game kills. It's incredible. This is just a really, really cool mod, and I love the fact that it's built in Age of Empires 2, specifically the Definitive Edition.
Yeah, like recreating the map is always going to be impressive, right? There was like a few years ago where somebody created one-to-one Gondor in Minecraft, the White City, and it just looks bananas, right? Because it took them like years to do it.
Yeah, I remember it.
And so this just alone on that side would have taken a lot of time, but it's a functioning game too. Like it's an actual mod that has like quests and objectives, and like it's recreating all these things and iconic location characters, quests and shit, all that sort of stuff from Skyrim. Like on top of the fact that you're recreating the map is pretty crazy. So 400 hours is probably, the fact that he got it in 400 hours is impressive. That it didn't take 800 hours or 1,000.
I thought 400 was low as well, given the level of detail.
Yeah, true. The way you read it's like, oh, they spent 400 hours to make it. And you're like, why? Like, how did they get it so quickly? I spent probably, well, maybe not 400 hours. Maybe like 100 hours on one of my settlement in Fallout 4.
Oh, wow.
Have you seen my settlement in Fallout 4?
No.
I'll send you this. It's actually on YouTube, and maybe we can play a clip with it.
All right. Yeah.
So I like basically when the game came out, all the expansions, like I spent like over the course of like the year or like 8-9 months, but not like every day, but like going back to it constantly and just being like hours just building on Xbox, mind you.
Oh, really?
Settlement. So I had to use like a hack. So like, because you're limited to the size that you can build for the settlements in Fallout.
And you're like, I need bigger.
So there was this hack where if you drop items on the ground, And then when you go into building mode, those items are there and you just destroy them. Then that subtracts from like your building size. So there was like a hack where you could just have unlimited building size. So the video, you'll see, I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
Like it's running at like 20 FPS at best because it's 4 stories. Like it's all themed.
Oh my God.
There's a deathcore cafe. There's like a whole like, game section. There's like, it's like
it's big.
It's called the Costonium Museum of Wonder.
Oh my Lord. You have to send me this video. We'll link it down below for other people to watch as well if we can't fit it in the YouTube version of this podcast. But yeah, that's crazy. I love mods. I love what people do with them. I love how creative they get. And I love when games give players the ability to be able to customize and add things, and the result is before you. It is Skyrim inside of a legendary title.
Yep.
All right.
And keeping the mod train rolling, this one isn't about creativity. This one is the other side of the mod scene for PC gamers, which is to fix issues that or problems with a game.
Yeah.
So Metal Gear Solid Collection. So Konami released it on consoles and PC. This takes games from the PS2 era, and the PS3 era, like Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3, and puts it on a one of those compilation collections, and you can play it on PlayStation or Nintendo Switch and PC. But
that's very cool.
The on PC, Metal Gear Solid and 1, 2, and 3 are all running at 720p. So, which is an ancient resolution. It's a resolution from the before times. And like, were there reasons for it? Maybe because you're porting ancient source code over, and even 720p is an upscale of sorts from ancient thingos. But so obviously when it came out on PC, you go on Steam and Reddit and stuff, people are like, why is this game looking so blurry and old? Because it's, one of the reasons is because it is old, but the other reason is because it's running at 720p. So within 12 hours or 1 day of the release, a mod appeared over on GitHub called the MGS Resolution Patch, and it offers a 4K option for Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3.
That's just the best.
It's a 64 kilobyte mod.
What?
So 64 kilobytes is the size of an email, an all text email, maybe. I don't know. It's like tiny.
What?
Right?
Why wouldn't they just include this? If it's that small, why did they and if it's that easy to fix, why didn't they just include it in the game?
Yeah. So in Metal Gear Solid 2, there's some bugs with the UI because, when you increase the resolution, you can cause issues with UI elements and things like that. But in Metal Gear Solid 3, apparently it's smooth. That's the sort of thing that you could fix, right? So it's just weird that as like remasters as a collection, it doesn't even target 1080p. Like 1080p is the minimum, right? You'd expect for a HD collection. If you're getting like a HD collection, like let's say you bought Lord of the Rings HD like movies, like at the and they arrived and that was 720p.
I would burn them in front of me.
Right? Like you expect minimum Blu-ray.
I would light them on fire, Kosta. That's what
4K,
I would do.
Obviously. Yeah.
If I was a Metal Gear Solid fan, I would light this on fire. I don't even know how I could. I can't believe that it was 64 kilobytes, like an email, and it changed the entire way that it looks.
Yeah.
Is this just a lazy port then?
Yes. I think
this is infuriating.
Like you got these like iconic games and you're not even able to.
Who wants to watch Snake crawl around on the floor in his leotard, nice looking outfit in 720p?
Exactly. I know, right? And yeah, it's
what did they do?
Even like if it's like a visual thing, I'm like, surely you can, because Konami are so obviously Metal Gear Solid was created by Hideo Kojima, and he left Konami to form his own studio. They left on bad terms, right? So his last game there was Metal Gear Solid 5. And then he went on to create Death Stranding, which was a PlayStation exclusive, and then it came to PC. And it's a weird game, but, Kojima's like a...
That's the last one that had a lot of actors in it. Yeah. Death Stranding was the last one that had a lot of actors in it. Sorry, I don't know. That's what we were talking about before.
It had that's right. Yeah, it did. Like had just all these like faces and things. The guy from Walking Dead and a whole bunch of people. Yeah. Yeah. So Konami like haven't been making like actual games. Like this is the studio that made Castlevania and all these like hype like Metal Gear and stuff like that. They haven't released like an original game in forever. And now you're coming back with this, and it's pretty shoddy.
Just a hot pile of garbage is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that somebody can get it to 4K with just like an
email,
half a day email.
That is just infuriating.
Type in run this game, right click, run in 4K. That's how
honestly, it's like bracket / enable 4K. And close bracket or something like that. And what Konami were like, you know what? Yeah. I reckon this looks alright at 720p.
But also, the other thing is that on Switch, I think it is, or even like on consoles, I can't remember. But anyway, like I haven't looked into this side of it, but apparently they're all like capped at 30 FPS too as well.
Oh, that's fun.
Just to add insult.
iPhone 15 Pro Max runs at 1080p, just below 1080p 60. On a phone. And they're releasing this garbage.
Yeah. So anyway, there's
shame,
Konami.
Shame.
Modders saving the day.
Shame. What the hell is this Ace Magic Tank 03?
Okay.
What the hell is that thing?
Okay, so recently
it looks like a air fryer.
It looks like one of those like stereos from like the late 90s, like the boombox stereos. That's what I think it looks like. It looks a bit silly, but it's a cube. So recently I got a Ace Magic Ryzen little mini PC, which is a little about
it's a little
third of the size of this. So it's not a cube. It's connected to a TV at the moment.
Is it a NUC?
Similar. A mini PC, yeah. And NUC is like Intel's version of it, like a mini PC.
Yeah.
And so I've connected it up, and I've got like it's emulating basically every console perfectly. I've got it running, playing like modern games as well, like running really, really well.
Oh, wicked.
The fan's a little like audible on it, but it's tiny, right? So like this tiny little mini PC that is like an emulation super box, as well as like can run modern games things, because it's got like a mobile CPU, like a laptop CPU and a laptop high-end Radeon GPU. It's like the same GPU in my Asus Zephyrus laptop, which is a decent laptop. Yep. So it's like pretty powerful. So that kind of like converted me to like the idea of like a mini PC, which is like a tiny little box that you can use for like gaming. You can connect it to a TV and you can just run games.
Yep.
So the Ace Magic Tank 3, I'm calling the PC GameCube.
I really like that.
But it does look silly, right? Like, I mean the RGB and the dials and the...
It looks like a bomb that you would put down and then like press the button at the front and then run away from in the future. Like a cyberpunk bomb. You
would like stick it onto a wall, and then turn the dial. And
it looks cool. I think it looks like a futuristic air fryer. It's got a 3080 in it.
It's got So the specs are. It's basically a high-end gaming laptop, right? And gaming laptops have come so far in recent years. So you've got up to a Core i9 12900H CPU, which is the top of the line from that generation, and you've got the 3080. Mobile GPU, which they can run at the full power. You won't have to worry about battery life, because like the issue with gaming laptops is that they're powerful, but you're only going to be getting
like 3 hours.
Yeah, or if you're lucky, you're mostly going to be getting like 2 hours or 1.5 to 2 hours. Yeah, it's got like Thunderbolt 4. It's got multiple USB ports. It's got inbuilt Wi-Fi. It's got Bluetooth. It's got DisplayPort output, and it's a little cube, and it's apparently got dedicated cooling for the CPU and GPU, and it's designed for gaming, right? So if you're thinking like, I don't know, but like I've always wanted, like, you know, like a gaming PC is cool, right? But like, and over the years we've seen, like, you know, where people have tried to release like little mini gaming PCs, or small form factor desktops that you can put next to your TV, right? Where you can just have like a gaming rig where you just turn it on and you go straight into Steam Big Picture mode, and you're playing whatever game at 60 FPS
without a problem.
With high visual settings in most consoles and stuff like that.
With an
no
Xbox
issues.
controller or something like
With
that.
an Xbox controller, and it's basically a PC console.
Yeah.
And with that mini PC that I've tested from Ace Magic recently as like an emulator, I'm actually going to do an article on it, on setting it up as like a little tiny little PC gaming box, because that's been a lot of fun. Is that, like I want this now just because of that. It's like with the 3080 in there, it'll be able to run most games.
That's perfect. Yeah. 3080, you won't have problems with anything, and I'm guessing you'll probably be running like 4K 60. Like that's what your TV.
I mean, you've got
your TV's 4K.
You've got DLSS, but it's not even like, it's not for the most cutting edge games. Like I'm not gonna, this isn't for like
Cyberpunk. You're playing like It Takes Two or something with the part.
Yeah, this is not like Alan Wake 2 where you need a 4090 just to hit, you know, to do all the full path tracing and stuff.
No, that's sick, man. I love little PCs like that. Like I'm a big fan of Zotac Z-Box line. I think they're really cool.
And it can be a literal GameCube because it's hardware that actually can emulate pretty much every GameCube game perfectly.
I'm sure you'll work that out, mate.
I've already worked it out.
Yeah. Of course.
It's already happening. So you can have Super Smash Brothers just with Xbox controllers just running at like 4K 60. That's
wicked. That's what you want.
That's what you want, man. That's the dream.
That's exactly what you want. Should we talk about this Amouranth?
Is it time for the After Dark section?
Yes. So we're going to finish this episode off with a bit of fun. And if you are listening, buckle up, because if you like tech and you like beer, this is the news story for you. So
is that right though?
Popular Twitch streamer Amouranth has revealed she is working with a European beer company to develop a custom beer that's created using her own vaginal yeast. So, my mouth is salivating, Kosta. I can't wait to try this beer. In a new interview with Dexerto, the Twitch streamer Caitlin Siragusa, is that how you pronounce that name?
Caitlin Siragusa.
Siragusa? Yeah, Caitlin Siragusa, or better known as Amouranth, has revealed she is working with a Polish brewery, the Order of Yoni, which, just fun fact, Yoni is a, it translates into, how do I say this?
Is it dirty?
The female clam.
Okay, so it's...
Yes.
Clams.
Yes.
Okay.
So Yoni, the order of...
How official?
What do you mean, how official?
Like the order of.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely.
It's like a secret society,
It's,
like, you know.
It's shocking that this is even a brewery. Anyway, we digress. To develop a new beer that will use Amouranth's vaginal smear as the main ingredient to develop a new flavor. Okay.
A new flavor.
Hey?
Okay.
The new flavor is Amouranth. So Amouranth explained that this is true. She is working with a company to produce this beer, and that the Order of Yoni has done this in the past with many models as smears. So here's how it works. The Order of Yoni website explains it doesn't actually use yeast, but instead a bacteria called Lactobacillus. Lactobacillus. This entire process, from smear to a bottle of beer made out of vaginal bacteria.
Smear to bottle.
What was that, sorry?
That's the tagline, from smear to bottle.
It's a very good tagline. So this entire process, from smear to a bottle of beer made out of vaginal bacteria, is
Jesus Christ.
is explained on the company's website. First, a gynecologist collects the vaginal smear, which is then transported to a laboratory where the lactobacillus bacteria is isolated, cleaned, analyzed, and then replicated. After this process is complete, the leftover is pure lactic acid that is then put straight into that yoni beer. You are gonna love it.
What's happening? Where are we?
Well,
What's happening? What's going on?
what is happening? Where are we?
This is like I've woken up from a coma. I've been in a coma for like 250 years. I'm Encino Man, basically. I'm Brendan Fraser. And Sam Wise, who's woken me up from, he's making a pull, and here I am.
Oh, that's
I have no idea what's going on.
That's so funny. Okay, so here's what she said. All right. I'm actually working with a beverage company. It's not my own. I'm still doing that project. There's a beer company. They're European. They want me to send in my vaginal yeast. Like basically like a pap smear myself. They want to make a beer using my vaginal yeast. Like the same profile, I guess. This is Amouranth. Amouranth then laughed and said, "It's hilarious. People will buy it for sure. I don't know if they actually drink it. I mean, they'll probably drink it." Should we get some?
Mm-hmm. Yes. No.
You're so delayed. You're like, maybe do it for the podcast. I don't know.
I don't know.
Nah, I don't think we're gonna. I don't think I can. I don't think my girlfriend will allow me to. She'd be like, "You're doing what? Sorry,
it's crossing.
With whose
it's
yeast?
crossing some line.
What?
It crosses a line that doesn't exist because there was no reason for it to exist.
That's very well put. I do like that. I think it's obviously a great business move for her. I'm trying to pull positives out of the fact
This
that
is
this
like
thing
the
even
bathwater
exists.
type of stuff. Remember that whole thing about streamers selling their bathwater?
Yeah, well, she also did that. I'm pretty sure. I know that was
Yeah,
Belle Delphine. I don't know. She's sold other stuff. She sells her panties or whatever. This is it's crazy. I can't remember what I was going to say about this now. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's obviously a great business move because she doesn't need to. It's not like one pap smear per beer bottle. It's you pap smear yourself once, send it into the Order of Yoni, and they replicate it, and then she'll just get checks in the mail for the rest of her life of people that want to buy Amaranth's
Do you
vag
think
beer.
they're going to be selling this product for more than a few months? Because there'll be like
It'll sell out instantly.
There'll be the handful of creeps that want it, and the podcasters and websites and other influencers that'll just want to, just to like, hey, I'm drinking.
Yeah, you're for content.
Her pea juice.
It's not pea. It's not. It's really not. It's something else. It's from a different spot. This is obviously crazy. Anyone that buys this and drinks this, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Exactly.
Don't do that. Buy it. It's funny. I would probably buy it to give as a gift. And then
To who?
like, here's a 6-pack of beer, and then just watch them drink it all, and then tell them afterwards.
And then tell them, "Hey, this is an interesting story."
Oh no!
And then they read it and they go, "Oh, that's gross." And they go, "Look at the bottle."
Yeah, yeast
And they're like,
from a
"You dirty-"
person.
But that's like
Crazy, right?
That's
That's crazy.
I wouldn't do that. Like that's it.
Oh, I would never do that. I'm just saying that would be funny to
be funny.
do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably do it. All right, next story. Also crazy, but I believe Riley Reid is getting ahead of the curve on this one. So, if that name rings a bell, if you know, you know. You know, adult film industry icon Riley Reid has officially launched a new platform that allows users to engage with AI chatbots trained on adult film entertainers. So I think this is a no-brainer for large language models. I respect her intelligence for seeing this ahead of everyone else in this. This is, I think, going to be a hit success. So it is exactly what I said it was earlier. Riley Reid has engaged with a large language model that is dedicated to her. It's been trained on her media, some of her adult film content as well, a lot of quizzes, a lot of surveys, and she's gone back and forth with it. And you've created an AI that you can now engage with, get into intimate conversations, in quotation marks, with a digital version of Riley Reid.
This is a moneymaker.
I think it's going to be huge. People will do this. I believe they will.
What the adult industry drives so much technology advancement, it's not even funny. The reason why we have video compression and image compression as good as it is because of this.
Oh man, this is a strange lane for the TT show, but nonetheless, it is technology. So this Riley Reid project is called Cloner.ai and is using Meta's Llama 2 large language model to power these avatars, and adult stars are required to feed it a bunch of critical information that is then converted into a chatbot with their own dedicated quote unquote personality. However you want to interpret that in the sense of artificial intelligence, it's up to you. Riley Reid's AI chatbot was trained on interviews with her, some X-rated content, podcast appearances, YouTube videos, and various other online media. It was then tweaked by herself, and she is giving that ability to any other adult film stars. So if you engage with the chatbot and you don't like what it's saying or how it's responding, or I don't know, the cadence, or I suppose, I'm not sure. You can change that yourself as the personality, as the star behind it, which is, I think this is going to be huge.
Yeah, I think so too. One funny thing is that, like, at first when I read it, I'm like, well, hold on a second, like, if you're just training this based on, like, you know, videos and performances, like, you don't really need AI to work out what the, you know, the 20 or 30 word vocabulary is in that sort of situation. So obviously, like, they've expanded to like interviews and like their social media thingos and all their appearances and even like, you know, having to engage with them to train it further and fine tune it. Because if you're just going by like, you know, adult entertainment,
it's going to be quite binary.
You don't need AI. You don't need AI to be able to work out what the responses are going to be. Yeah.
So here's what Riley Reid said. I'll be able to see how it responds to users and edit it to be like, no, I wouldn't have said it. I would have said it more like this. Riley Reid said, but in the beginning, my focus was on things like making sure it had my dog's names is right, making sure I was fact checking it. I feel like we're going to be a huge part of AI adopting into our society because porn is always like that. It's what it did with the internet, and the porn world has seen so many advances in technology. I think she is spot on with this. This is going to be huge.
We've got little computers in our pockets.
Just have Riley Reid whispering sweet nothings in your ear, Kosta, for only a small fee of $30 a month. Crazy price. Insane.
This is if you're getting what industry this is, there'll probably be like per conversation.
Yeah, well, do you want to hear what the free version is?
How much?
5 messages a month. So you can either send her 5 messages, which can be in audio or text, that limits conversations with digital versions of adult stars to 5 messages a month. With Riley, if you want to engage with her fully and get into intimate conversations, you will need to pay $30 a month, which is an egregious price for this.
Audio or text? There's audio as well. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it'll use some other AI language model, AI algorithm.
Well, yeah, they can train, like, they can replicate voices.
Microsoft
like
is working on something like that.
Like 3 sentences, and they can give you anything.
Yeah. It's crazy. This is, without a doubt, going to be a hit, whether it is from Riley Reid's platform or not. I can see AI avatars taking
We're
over.
going to see so many of these things. But like even like if you separate it from the adult industry, like you know how it's that Cameo
Yeah.
app where like you get like a celebrity to say happy birthday to a friend or whatever, and you pay and they charge, and the money goes straight to the celebrity.
Yeah.
Like it's only a matter of time before there's a AI version of that where celebrities or whatever will like license their likeness and voice, and you know within restrictions, whatever it is, just for people. They don't even get involved, and then they just take a cut of like you can just get you subscribe to it, and you can get a celebrity to you know to say whatever message or you customize it to
imagine
to basically speak to them or whatever like that.
Imagine being able to like say I was, I don't know, Messi or something, like the soccer player, and I could make it to Japan to do a brand shoot, and it was all green screen anyway. I could then just like get that brand could then license my, I don't know, 3D rendering of my face that is then and the AI that goes with it, and then they can just superimpose me into their ad, and then I cash a check.
Yeah, that's right.
You can do that everywhere. You don't even have to go anywhere anymore.
Like it's going to get crazy because like that's going to become normal, and then there's going to be cases where estates are going to be selling likenesses for celebrities that you know that are not around anymore.
That's where it gets a bit dodgy. But I suppose we'll save that for the next episode of the TT Show. We have gone over time, so you lucky listeners have got an extra 15 minutes from us. Say thank you in the comment section below. That would be appreciated. If you've made it this far, please go like, comment, and subscribe. Go do all of that stuff. We've had another jam-packed week of news, and yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out next week. Do you have anything to sign this episode off with, Kosta?
No, just if you do use the Riley Reid AI, let us know how it goes.
Yeah. let us know how that goes. All right. Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.